Don't say whoops right at the very beginning.
Hey, everybody. Hey, this is Dr. Amy from Animal Chiropractic Education Source, and we're getting ready for Basecamp Pro 2020, where animal chiropractors get to come together for community, for confidence, and for building that, ability to do what they do better. And I have here with me Michael and Joy Vanoy, the creators of A.P.F., Advanced Protection Formula. It's the secret formula that works for animals and people, and it's widely used all over the world, but they're here to share some of their tips and secrets about animal supplementation and why they created this product, but also what that means for our attendees at the Basecamp, because attendees at Basecamp are going to get to learn a little bit of the insider secrets about how to use it. So welcome. Thank you for taking the time to meet with me today. And I really appreciate you setting aside a little bit of time to tell us some secrets about supplementation.
Thanks, Dr. Amy. Glad to be here.
Yeah.
Awesome. Tell me a little bit about the APF. So a little bit about your background and what ignited you to want to make this fabulous magic stuff.
Well, I'm an equine practitioner and had a practice in the San Francisco Bay Area for nearly 30 years. And about, 25 years into practice, Joy, who's really the person that has the passion for cutting edge nutrition, discovered adaptogens and presented the information, the scientific background to me. And adaptogens, for those of you that know a little bit about them, are plants that help people, pets, and ponies adapt to good stress, which we call athletic training or conditioning, and increase their resistance to all of the other stresses that we see as unfavorable or bad stress. So Joy is really the brains behind bringing adaptogens to me, and then I sort of took it from there, and we looked at it in horses first.
I knew there was a secret.
Well, actually, we began with it originally. We were the guinea pigs, and we used it for a number of months before I began, because I've been doing research on through the UC Davis library and stuff. I was able to get online and get a lot of published research, and I began to think this could really help horses, because so much of what triggers sort of problems in horses is stress of stabling, transportation, competition, changing of herd dynamics, all of the things. We get colic and so I kept thinking this could really help horses. So and I was riding 3D at the time, and I had a very stressy mare. So she was a perfect candidate to try it on.
Oh, wow. Cool. So, so then were the ingredients already kind of laid out in the literature, or did you have to do some more research to figure out what the ingredients were going to be? How did that go?
Well, we actually, when we first learned about adaptogen, they had, these ingredients had been used by the Soviets in their sports programs to help get their elite athletes fit and help them to stay well during training and competitions, global competitions. And so they had been using these particular ingredients for many years before we learned about them in what would have been 1993. So even though the herbs weren't widely known outside of Russia, they had been researched fairly extensively for at least a decade inside of what was still the Soviet Union to help maintain the health of their elite human athletes. There were a couple of papers, one on Schizandra in race horses that had been published in Chile, and then some things on the Eleutherococcus as an immunomodulator that had been published actually by BI, Boehringer, in Germany in the, well, it would have been mid-'80s. And so at the time that we, started really getting interested in acquiring the ingredients and producing our own product, we were getting ready for the Sydney Olympics. So that would have been, 2000. And there was a lot of interest in transport stress and, the immunosuppressive effects of long distance transport in horses. And so we organized a research project with a couple of friends of ours at UC Davis to see if we couldn't look at T-cell populations in horses that were being transported for 24 hours in a van. So we weren't flying the horses, but we were going to van the horses. So we actually did a prospective study and showed that if you fed, our particular formula to these horses for 30 days, measured T-cell populations before supplementation, and then we put the horses in a van and shipped them for 24 hours and looked at T-cell populations afterwards. And the horses that got it actually had better T-cell populations than the ones that didn't. So that was published in EVJ, Equine Veterinary Journal, like I say, just ahead of the Sydney Games. So we actually had some interest in shipping horses long distance and helping keep them well.
Awesome stuff. And so, because we know the chiropractic adjustment also stimulates T-cell production, this is like a perfect synergistic event. I can't imagine that those animals don't just, they can live through anything with that.
Yeah, it's a hand in glove approach. It really is, and we found that the horses drank better. They maintained their weight better. I mean, it's hydration was better in the treatment or the supplemented group. We try not to say treatment, but the supplemented group maintained their weight better, principally through hydration.
Sure.
So that's great.
Awesome. So I have a question.
Okay.
So, and this isn't even on my sheet of questions, but if Boehringer was looking at this, why didn't it become a drug, and what makes it different from being a drug versus a supplement? I know that's kind of probably a loaded question, but.
Well, when we look at Eleutherococcus, all of our herbs are always sent to a lab in Maine that does HPLC. So we have set, knowing what our spikes are and the things we're looking for. B and C eleutherocytes, or B and E eleutherocytes, are the ones you want to see the spikes on for Eleutherococcus. And that's what Boehringer was looking at. So they thought, okay, we'll pull that out and we'll see if we can't synthesize something. Well, it doesn't work when it's pulled out. You have to have the whole herb. There's got to be other cofactors and, there's other things going on. So what we know to be the points you want to look at, that's not everything that's being brought to the table. So they abandoned it because it didn't work when they just tried to synthesize what they thought was the active ingredient.
How fortunate for us. So it's more like a whole food supplement than it is like even like an herbal supplement, because it needs the whole shebang.
In the Far East and in their pharmacopoeia and their sort of, they look at these herbs as foods. These adaptogens come from what they call the kingly herbs or the tonic herbs. And so they see them as foods because they're not specific to treat specific things. They're not herbs that you would take in cycles or herbs that you would take, that are heating herbs or calming. They've got all these others that are more medicinal herbs. These really aren't seen that way. These are seen like whole foods.
Awesome. So a little bit like Ayurvedic medicine also.
Yes.
Cool. But you've kind of made it you're sort of a niche of your own, because you're kind of bridging those two specialties.
Yeah, and I think we're the only one that I know of that has formulas that are more than one herb, that are complex mixtures of herbs that are out there. You can buy rhodiola and you can buy Eleutherococcus, but to have it synergistically blended like we have, I don't know that there's many other formulas out there.
Few and far between.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say the only one,
but I don't know of any.
Right.
And but we do know that when the herbs are balanced properly, they potentiate each other. And so you get,
Exactly.
the sum is, is greater than the parts.
That's I think important. And then the other thing I think about APF in particular is the ease with which you can give it. Because I think so many other herbal preparations come as a dry supplement and they get distributed differently throughout the base.
Right. Well, the thing is that, you can, I mean, particularly with the horses, I mean, you can dose it right in the horse's mouth, and the horses actually seem to like the taste of it, which is sort of odd because it is, for those of us that have taken it for a long time, we know it's kind of bitter, so it goes better with lemonade. So, and you can top dress it as well, and for the horses, and dogs are pretty darn good about it as well. And because it is a tincture, we know that you're not going to dose it directly into a cat's mouth, but you can chop it up with some liver or some salmon and tuna, and the cats actually do really well with it as well, as long as you don't put it directly in their mouth.
What would you consider? I know there's dosing on the bottle, but what would you consider like an overdose? Is that possible?
Well, it's certainly possible, but I mean, with horses, I mean, we tend to dose them at 1 mil or 1 cc per 100 pounds of body weight. But I know people that have competitive horses that double that, and with good results. And the same thing with our small animals. We for animals that are well, we supplement them with 1 drop, so like a raindrop, per pound of body weight. But when we have dogs or cats that are having health problems, we'll double that as well. So we'll go to, instead of 30 drops per milliliter, so 1 mil per 30 pounds, we'll go to 2 mils per 30 pounds. And with the dogs and cats, I mean, it would probably become so unpalatable if you started to get into a range that that you might think would be unhealthy for them. I mean, I think it would just start to taste so bad that they just wouldn't eat it.
A cup at a time they may not eat.
Yeah, they're not gonna eat that, and like I said, we at double the serving size for the horses. I mean, we're still having excellent results, and Joy and I each take 10 milliliters a day, which is the horse dose.
Awesome.
So
it's bigger per pound for you than it is for the horse.
Right. I think what we found is that the herbivores need less per pound of body weight than omnivores or carnivores to get an equal or better effect.
Awesome.
So
that could mean that the herbivores are already getting some of that in their diet, and we're just tipping the scale. Or do you have a theory on that one?
I guess our theory is that they are more sensitive to the herbs and they utilize them better. That they're just their system can make better use of them. We need to kind of overdose to get.
They don't need as much chocolate and beer, so they're better.
They don't get the beer.
Exactly.
But when you think about if you take xylazine, or those of us old enough to remember romping before it was xylazine, but you give 3 mils to a horse, and you get kind of a nice sedation, and you give 1 mil of xylazine to a ruminant, and they'll go virtually intramuscularly, and some of them will go into lateral recumbency. So there's just a difference in
Sure.
sensitivity in different species that, and I think, like I said, the horses and ruminants, we use it in the kids, show sheep and show goats, for taking to the fair. So the ruminants and the herbivores, the monogastrics, the horses, just seem much more sensitive to it than omnivores or carnivores are.
Oh,
or
cool.
beerivores.
Fabulous stuff. Fabulous information for sure.
The beerivores are probably the least sensitive to it, So.
Yeah. Yeah. Need more doses per day.
Exactly.
Cool. So a lot of the people who are coming for Basecamp obviously are chiropractors. And so they're not veterinarians. How easy is this for them to acquire and to be able to suggest to their patients? Do you have any information on that?
Well, I mean, we have, I mean, basically professional pricing for veterinarians, physicians, chiropractors. So, you know,
Physical therapists.
anyone, that, you know, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
These equine physiotherapists or massage therapists, you know, I think that it's nice to have professionals that, you know, have access to the product, right? And the neat thing is you do not have to be an herbalist to utilize the product in your practice, which is great for me because I'm not an herbalist, and you can recognize in your practice where the product would be beneficial, and like I say, you don't have to go out into your pharmacy and grab, you know, all sorts of different herbs and mix them together, and or acquire herbs and do the mixing and blending. You know, this is really a ready to go product. With pretty simple dosing or supplementing instructions. So it should fit brilliantly into a chiropractic practice.
Yeah, awesome. And there's no like drug regulation to have to worry about for the chiropractors who are using it. So it sounds like a really good fit, especially for animal chiropractors.
Right. I mean, it's available over the counter. Okay.
Right.
So it's not, so, I mean, so, you know, if
Yeah, there's no regulations against
I mean, it'd be like going into, you know, a gym or a you know, fitness studio, and they've, you know, got a range of OTC supplements in the gym or the fitness studio, and the same thing with the chiropractors that, you know, if that feel like they, you know, want to offer supplementation to their clients or their patients. I mean, it would fit nicely into that type of practice.
Perfect. Perfect. All right. Are there any special things that you want to be able to offer the Basecamp attendees because they're making that little extra effort to be a part of a special group, you know, animal chiropractors who are continuing their certification? They are definitely the cream of the crop because they are the cutting edge animal chiropractors who are essentially leading, you know, the ability for these animals to perform at their best, perform with fewer and fewer pharmaceuticals on board, with more nutritional, better nutrition. So is there anything important that you need them to know about or that they will get out of attending Basecamp with regard to information from Auburn Laboratories?
So what are you going to do, dear?
Well,
I don't want to put you on the spot.
She's on the spot.
Yeah, they can call in, and one of the things we do when we work with the veterinarians when he goes to AAP is we offer specials, especially for new clients. They sign up as a health professional, they get discounted pricing even below our wholesale, because we feel that health professionals take the time to detail the product, and there's a relationship between them and their client, which takes more time from them, more effort, more connection. So we give them even a better discount or a better pricing than wholesale, which would be for like a retail store, which doesn't involve the same client-patient relationship. So they would get health professional pricing, and for their first order, we give them, you know, buy 5, get 1 free. So our cases are 6 that they would get it at a discounted price for free.
That's a great offer for these guys, because I think they're going to find that they're also going to get a little taste testing during Basecamp for those who are live here. And because of that, I think they will find that it's like the great addition to their practice. It's going to make their practice easier for them, better for their clients, better for their patients, all those kinds of
things. We're going to make sure, Dr. Amy, that the attendees, the people that actually make the effort to get to the base camp, are going to go home with a sample of APF, for themselves, and also if they're into canine practice, we'll send them home with some product for their small animal practices as well.
That's awesome. That's really generous of you. We really appreciate that. Because, and I like the fact that I know we use it for ourselves, probably not as often as you do. We should use it more frequently. But we kind of like it because when we go to conferences, it's stressful. Eating is different, times are different, all those kinds of things. And it's very helpful to have it on board. So we personally like to use it for those kinds of things, as well as for our patients too. So are there any other things we need to know from you guys before we wrap up everything? So tell me where they can find more information. What's your website? How can they contact you ahead of time, even before the conference?
Well, the website is www.auburnlabs.com, and our 800 number is 877-661-3505, and they're welcome to call at any time and ask to talk to Dr. Van Noy or myself. If Savannah can't answer a question, she's our office manager and she's brilliant, so she can probably answer any questions that they have. But if they like to talk to either of us, that's fine. We can be reached through email. He's Michael at Auburn Labs. I'm Joy at Auburn Labs. So lots of ways to contact us.
That sounds great.
We're in California. So, so we're in the Pacific right now, Pacific Daylight Time. So the office is open at 9 o'clock our time, and then Savannah takes a lunch break from 1 to 2, and then we're back from 2 to 4. So, and I'm delighted to speak by telephone. If I try to communicate by email, it takes me forever. So
he's a slow typer.
We will make a note of that.
I can talk a lot. So
we'll send this out there so that people can start calling you, because I think they'll want to.
Good.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to set up this meeting with me and to tell us a lot of the information behind APF. We've known for a long time that it's like a magic formula, but it's, I think, really important that people understand that it's not like a lot of supplements where somebody just said, oh, these are some great things to throw together. I think it's awesome to see all the time and effort you put into researching it to make it what it is, and to see what it's been doing for all this time. Thanks for your patience to be here.
Thank you for having us.
We really appreciate the opportunity.
All right, we look forward to more as we get closer and closer to Basecamp. So thanks again.